Grand Rising, and welcome to the Voice of Cheryl. I am Toothless Tiger, and today my topic is going to be YouTube love affairs. I want to talk about YouTube love affairs because for the last, I would say, 3 weeks, I've been looking at different YouTube channels, and we've had multiplicity of women on different platforms talking real ugly to one another and about one another, speaking on these YouTube love affairs that they've been involved in. And I would like to give my take on it because it reminds me of the penitentiary inside outside love affairs that I've been involved in. Because I asked myself a question. Hi, in the Sam Houston, I'm going to say, do you as a woman or a man fall in love with an individual that you've never seen, you've never met, you've never touched? And how do you gather feelings inside of you that makes you want to commit to an individual under these circumstances? Well, I can't speak for those women, but again, like I said, it reminds me of the situation when I was involved in a penitentiary inside outside relationship. And when you're writing to an individual, for some reason, you talk to the heart of that person, the very mind of that person, or the lies that they're able to tell. Most guys that write well from the penitentiary, they call them pencil pimps. And I can certainly see why, because I knew one that was a damn good one. And I looked forward to receiving those letters weekly. And matter of fact, shit, I had friends and family members looking forward to those letters because they were awesome. And I remember my son telling me, all y'all do is spend y'all time looking in the dictionary trying to find words to say to one another. And he was damn near right, but it was fun doing it. So when I hear these women referring to each other as bitches and hoes, and oh, they be talking something awful about one another and how low down and dirty they are and what they can do, all behind a man that they know not. I know that there is a problem, a big problem. And, there's attack on our community. The attack is on the female because she is the stargate. She brings life of her own kind. The male because he aids in her bringing life, and he is the warrior type as far as his body, his position in life is to protect the family. And so they see us, and when I say they, I mean the European and their system, see us as um, a childlike race where they treat us like children, and they don't see us as adults. And when we answer to them under the guise of being human, but when we answer to Negro, Black, Colored, Indian, those labels, then they actually see us as chattel. So we've been in a dilemma the majority of our lives. Most of us have never seen a real love affair because a lot of us were reared in homes where there were not two parents. I was fortunate enough to be in a home with two parents when my dad was there. But, he was oftentimes gone. But when he was there, my dad hardly ever spoke unless it was the weekend. And he had been out and he would come in and talk to us. But most of the time he was awfully quiet. When he would leave and stay gone, I never understood that that affected me in such a way that it gave me what I now know today as abandonment issues. You know, they say we oftentimes, when we look for mates, we look for our parents. If you're a boy, you pretty much look for someone that's your mother. And if you're a girl, you know, you would find your dad. Not necessarily that you're looking for the bad qualities of your parents, but that's what you resonate with. So that's what you kind of pretty much end up with, the bad qualities of your parents. And I'm not saying that your parents are bad. So please understand what I'm saying. The only thing I'm telling you is that that's what we tend to identify with, the pain. And so it's easier to fall into the pain area of life than to seek and pursue happiness. That takes some effort. And most of us just don't have the effort to give. And I'm speaking from my experience. True that. I want you to understand. I'm not saying everybody is me, but this is what I do know. And hear me good. What I do know is if this shit happened to me, I am not the only human in this world that this happened to. For it is written that there is no sin that overtake us that is not common to man. So we all kind of think the same things and go through the same issues of life. But what we have to do is deal with those issues and work through those issues, and most of us choose not to. But I know Saturday, let me go back. They speak on Sunday being the most segregated day of the week because of the segregation in worship, where we are supposed to all be worshiping the same God, but unfortunately, we're not always welcome in the same worship houses. So I would say Saturday, and I'm going to say Saturdays with an S on it, are the most integrated days of the week. And I say that because for most penitentiaries in the state of Texas, that's the first day of visitation for the week. And in that line that you have to sit in when you go to visit a guy, or in the visitation room that you get to sit in and wait for them to come out and visit, doesn't matter who you are, if you're European, if you're more, doesn't matter, but you click as women because you share a like story and you develop friendships over the years, uh, especially if you're a regular visitor. There's several of you that will always be there at a certain time. And I don't know if you be vying for who's going to be the first in line this week or number three or number four. But I've never been, well, I have been, but the majority of my visits, I've never been less than number five. I should say more than number five because I was in the top five of the first ones that get to go in and visit. And the only way that I would be later than that is if I chose to leave at a later time. As you have an inside outside relationship, you choose pretty much how you want to visit, and you choose the times that you want to get there so it's comfortable for you as well as the inmate, because some of them have to work on weekends, but generally when they have visitation, they will let them lay in for a visit. And this YouTube love reminds me of that experience. I hear these women calling each other bitches and hoes, and they're so angry, and they've never even met the guy, and I don't, I don't quite get it because they are in a free society where they could meet and could hook up, but a lot of these women have never met the person that they're entangled with, but they're sending pictures. They call them for the men, dick pics, and then for the women, of course, they call them pussy pops pics. And the women are showing their bodies, or they're either nude or they're in some sexy lingerie. It's really something to see. And I say, damn, how did this happen in a free society? Well, I just take it back to myself. And what I found was in working programs of recovery, because I have recovered from several things, not drugs or alcohol. I didn't have that problem, but I loved alcoholics and drug addicts. So I worked a program actually of Alcohol Anonymous, because in the Al Anon room, which is for the family members of alcoholics and drug addicts, it was so much denial in that room. Damn, I thought I was drowning in the river of denial. I mean, you ask a question, nobody wants to get honest and answer. How do you deal with it when your addict is doing this or doing that? Nobody would, to me, be honest. And I was hurting and I wanted help. I've recovered from incest recovery and I've gone to therapy for those things. I tried to work different programs like Overeaters Anonymous and things of that nature, which none helped. And so I found, though, in working and discovering who I am as an individual and as a human being, knowing that my birthright was stolen and I was taught false history, and being able to accept and to love myself today for who I am and all that I've gone through, I learned that, you are who you are. Your life experiences are yours, and they're not necessarily meant for you, although you are the one who are experiencing these things. They're meant for you to share with others. And that's what life is all about: sharing, serving, giving to others. But of course, if you don't have a love of self, which most of us don't have, that's involved in a relationship with an individual that we've never met and we've never seen and probably won't get to meet in the free world or in the quote unquote YouTube world, um, we are lacking a lot in individuality. For me, the baggage that I came into most relationships with were abandonment issues that I did not realize that I had. And that goes back to my dad. If you recall me stating a little earlier that he would be gone, my dad was the type of guy that said he was going to the grocery store and he was going to go get a loaf of bread, and hell, he might be gone for 2 years, um, without explanation. And he would show up the same way without explanation. One thing that I can say, though, he taught us a lot. And most of the time he would tell us about a nigga, but one thing he would tell us about a nigga is he was that nigga. And he showed us and he gave us the knowledge and the wisdom that we needed to navigate through this system. Unfortunately, as an individual, no matter what you learn from your parent or what you endeavor in your mind of what you think a relationship should be, things happen throughout your life that will dictate how you're going to respond in a relationship. And oftentimes, if you've had life traumas, then you're not going to respond in a healthy manner. You're going to be needy. And a lot of women say they're not needy because they talk shit, but that doesn't make them not be needy. Or because they dress a certain way. A lot of people think that dressing is the answer, but it is not. My daddy taught me as a young lady that a man know his intentions with a woman when he first meet her. So it doesn't matter about your matching drawers and your matching bras and your outfit matching your purse and your stockings and your gloves. None of that matters to a man. It may matter to you as an individual, and that's okay. But it doesn't matter to a man because he knows his intention when he first meet you. A woman has an idea of what she wants when she see a man. She has an idea of what she would like for it to go for. But when I think about these women calling each other bitches and hoes and sluts and the worst terminology that you can think of over guys that are using them to get views, because this is what I've learned about YouTube for the little time I've been on. And I hope to get many views. I hope to get 1,000 subscribers at some point or another. But I've seen that people will say and do anything for views and likes. And of course, that's not me. So, hell, I may not ever get to where I'd like to be in the YouTube world, but I'm going to give you Cheryl. I'm going to give you Toothless Tiger. I'm going to give you what I have and what I believe that can help somebody. Perhaps it can, perhaps it can't. I don't know. It's like I have these t-shirts, and the t-shirt, I was inspired by this t-shirt when I was invited on John's show, and the audience received me so beautifully. And then I was explaining to them about my teeth, and I just said, fuck them teeth, and everybody was just cheering me on. Fuck them teeth, fuck them teeth. And for me, it was beautiful because, we spend our whole life trying to please other people. We mask. And it's so funny that now that so many of us are waking up and taking the mask off, now the government tells us mask on. We need to wear a mask in order to live. When, in all honesty, what I think they're doing is trying to separate us from our loved ones. So 6 feet apart. Now, I think you probably need to, you know, love your people while they're here. And you're going to love them when they're gone, but it's going to certainly be in a memory. But when they're here and alive and well, you should spend time with them and do things with them. But first off, you need to spend time with yourself and learn who you are. Learn what life is really all about, how life began, and how it happens, in cycles, and where you are at different stages in your life. I found that the abandonment issue leads to control issues. And oftentimes we think that we are loving, kind, sweet, giving people, but we're really not. We're really controlling, sometimes mean, arrogant, um, unforgiving individuals. And we say that we are all right. That's one of the sayings they used to have in recovery that would really just bother me. It's okay today. Well, when I was in the room of Al Anon, that it's okay today shit used to just drive me crazy because for me, the day wasn't okay. But speaking from the other side, when I went into the rooms of recovery, and what one of the recovering individuals from drugs told me was that the it's okay today means totally different for them because they're saying it's okay today because that was a day that they didn't use. If they had an alcohol problem, that was a day that they didn't drink. So for them, it certainly was okay, no matter what else was going on, because the reason for the rooms was to stop you from using and drinking. So it made all the sense in the world once I understood it from that perspective. But when I would hear those women in Al Anon say it's okay today, boy, that would just drive me crazy because I couldn't understand what was okay. Perhaps they was coming from the same thing. Today was a day that their whatever didn't do whatever it was that they were involved in. But when you go to those rooms, after you're there at least 3 visits and you haven't found out that you're no longer there for the person that brought you to the room, you're there for you, then you're missing the mark. And I'm grateful that I learned early that it was all about me and how I had compromised my values and how I had abandoned myself and how I had became obsessed with an individual that was really a figment of my imagination because the person that I was dealing with had none of the characteristics of the man that I had made him be or the man that I thought that he could become. Because oftentimes we come up with this idea that they're perfect in one sense, the way they are, but we're going to help them actually get to that perfection that we're looking for to be the man that we need them to be. And unfortunately, that will never happen, nor will it ever work. So I hear these ladies, and all of them seem to be talking about, one or two men, that it appears that these men know the vulnerability of women, and they play on that vulnerability, and they have these women doing their bidding for them, and they use them in ways that I would call misuse and abuse. Because I'm a firm believer in, Bill Withers has a song called, you know, keep on using me until you use me up. I don't have a problem with you using me, because trust me, I'm going to use you too, because we use each other for the things that we do. Whatever we need each other for, that's what we do. The problem for me comes when you abuse your ability to use, when you misuse your ability to use. That's for me when the problem comes in the picture. So I don't have a problem with us working together on whatever it is. The problem becomes, it becomes a problem for me when you think that you're doing something that's um, past what my boundaries are. And that's another thing I noticed with the inside outside relationship. Most of us that endeavor into that type of relationship, we do not have set personal boundaries, even though we may think that we do. But in all honesty, before I really started working programs of recovery from the different life issues that I've experienced, I didn't even know the word boundary existed in the form of me personally having a boundary. I knew about the word, but I did not know how it applied or related to my life. And so it's so many little things that we don't think about, because every day we're going through so much and trying to defeat so much. Every day is a struggle. Um, Somebody has a song, and I think Rick Ross sings, "Every day I'm hustling," something to that effect. We're hustling every day just to survive. And I mean, whether you have a job or not, you're just hustling, bustling, just going along, just moving. So it's kind of hard. And then without a mate, as an adult woman, if you've ever been intimate, you remember what that feels like. And you really want to be in a relationship where you're wanted and you can want somebody. That was one of the good things about being in an inside outside relationship, because you could imagine the relationship being whatever you want it to be. You could say all the beautiful things that you wanted to say, and even the guy would say them back to you. Or I guess for the women that wrote guys outside, it was the same difference. I saw this show, Love After Lockup, and then they would tell about relationships where women were in relationships with guys. And so the game seemed to be the same for all inside outside relationships. And most of the time it's a hustle and a racket. One of the things for me, I didn't have to worry about another individual infringing upon the relationship as far as visitation goes, because one of my requirements was that I was going to do the visiting. And if I could wait and not be intimate, and I believed in waiting and not being intimate. So if I could do that for you, then certainly you can't have no other friends paying you no visits. No, that was, restricted. And it was only for myself and your family. Oftentimes, family never went. And so I found that as a woman in that relationship, you become the lifeline to this individual, to the free world in your mind. And so you thinking about us and we and our, and when you get out, we're going to do this and our house and our love and our relationship. And when you're talking to the inmate, 9 times out of 10, and I just didn't hear this from my inmate, I heard this from other inmates talking to their visitors, and just talking to women that were in relationships with the guys. And you would hear the inmates all say, my, me, mine. I, me, my, mine. You would hear the women say, us, we, ours. Big difference. It's a big difference. And we love to believe that because we're the lifeline to the outside world to these guys, that they're really honest in what they're telling us. And perhaps when they tell us that while they're locked up, they are. They could really mean that. I can't say they don't. I don't know. But I can certainly tell you that the percentage of the people that remain in an inside outside relationship once the guy gets outside is slim to none. Very little percentage. Those relationships don't last. And a lot of times they don't last is because the guy wants to forget about that part of his life. And he wants to start afresh and anew with somebody who doesn't know his checkered past. Or that could be the same for a female, I guess. I don't know. But I would say if the game to play is the same, I would say that that could be the same thing. I know that a lot of people will tell you, why are you talking to that individual? You don't even know them. But I know the mentality of an inside outside relationship. It works the same whether you are girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, um, even family members. I've had a couple of very close family members while they were incarcerated, and I would write them and I would send them a minimal amount of money. I didn't have a lot to send, so I would send what I could. But they would tell me that you're going to be the first one I call, or I love you so much, or you're my angel. But when they came home, hell, I didn't even know they were home. Same happened with my first husband before we were married, and I did prison time with him. Um, he came home, I didn't even know he was home. And I went to see him every week. And in the state of Texas, living in Dallas, the city that I live, going to a penitentiary, you have to drive at least, at least 100, and I'm going to say at least 104 to 15 miles before you get to your first penitentiary, unless you go to the state penitentiary here in the city or the federal prison here in the city. But other than those two, you have to drive at least 104 to 115 miles, and then it expands. Um, when his first stint, I was driving over 220 miles because it was over the on the other side of Houston. And his second stint, um, I was driving over 304 miles because it was in Beaumont, and that's one way. So you spend the majority of your time on the road on a Saturday morning, waking up very early, about 3 to 4, so you can be on the road about 5, so you can be in line about 10, and hopefully you're not so far back that maybe around 12 you'll get to go in and visit, and only to spend 2 hours sitting in a visitation room angry and fussing the whole time. So I imagine these type of relationships are like this with this YouTube love, because these people don't know each other. I don't know if the only time they communicate is through the comments on YouTube, or if in fact they trade numbers. They would have to trade numbers unless they're going through inboxes sending all of these pictures that they send to each other. I don't really know how they do that. But it seems like none of them never really physically meet, and they don't know if they're talking to a man or a woman, but they seem to be so in love. And I believe that we see love more as a feeling rather than an action, when love is honestly a verb and it's actionable. And if one doesn't show you love, then I could venture to say that you don't know love. You certainly don't have their love. because love is not based in um, feelings, it's based in action, although a feeling comes with it. And it's a very good feeling, a beautiful feeling when the action is there to back it up. It's not what you say per se, it's what you do that tells a person who and what they mean to you. It's what you're willing to do for them. And it's amazing how we're so caught up in what happened to us till we don't understand that we're allowing what happened to us to dictate what we do. And that's unfortunate, but that happens to a lot of us as women and men. But I can only speak from a woman's point of view. And it's very sad that we're caught up in the pain of our yesterday and we refuse to do anything about it. And we tend to throw all our attention to other people so that we don't have to look at whatever our faults or our frailties. We would rather look at you and help you resolve or absolve you of your issues than to deal with the issues that's most important, and that's the issue of you. The you factor is very important, and I kind of said this when I first started my YouTube channel, and I heard it from the first time one of the YouTubers, and he said when he started some 15 years ago that a lot of people have lost the thought, the meaning of YouTube because the first word in YouTube is you. And I really like that idea, and that's the concept that I'm bringing to YouTube. I really like talking about myself more than others. And it's not that I'm narcissistic or I'm bragging, but I can talk about me because I've lived through these issues and I actually literally walked through every painstaking step to get better or to be a better person. So I can share my experience of my life with others. It's not that I pretend to know it all because I don't. Although I've had people to tell me that I think I know everything, and I don't. But because I know so much and I know mostly everything they need to know, then yeah, I guess to them they would see that way. I don't know. But as for me, I'm just a regular little lady from the ghetto. Love who I am. I do. I did not know there was a time that I didn't. Okay. I had no clue of the things that was driving my life. See, a lot of these women that I hear calling each other bitches and hoes and so upset about, these YouTube guys that they never met, it's a little girl in them that's hurting. And she's hurting real bad. And perhaps she was abandoned, maybe even molested, or certainly touched in the wrong way. Maybe she was looked at, and the gentleman or the female that looked at her was older and gave her an eerie feeling because there are some people that can molest you without ever touching you. They do it with their eyes, they undress you, and you feel uncomfortable. That happens. It does. And molestation doesn't necessarily mean penetration. Uh, so we need to start understanding, understanding, and overstanding the definition of words. That's why it's so very important. And I try to stress to our people that we need to learn words, and we can start with etymology, and that's the origin of words. It's called the etymon. We need to know that because there's so many conversations that we have in business and even with each other that we don't really realize what we're saying to one another. And so it's very important that we start learning because culture is in the language. And therefore, once you learn something different, if you start speaking the language, then you can understand the culture. You cannot learn something new and don't utilize it. You can't do that because then did you really learn it? If you don't exercise what you learn, we love to say, when I know better, I do better. That's not always true. And we have to hold ourselves accountable. And that's one of the things as a people that we tend to not do is hold ourselves accountable. There is so much that has happened to us because of a system of it. I think I shared the book with you guys, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. That is a system that's in place against us. But there are things that we need to do for ourselves that only we can do. And so when you're in these relationships, the YouTube love affairs or the people that you never met, but you feel gung ho, it triggers something in you that you haven't dealt with. That little girl that's inside of you that's crying for help. That's what she's doing. And you got to get her the help that she needs because we're viewed as a childlike race of people. And we're not giving credit for maturing. And so we're looked upon as children. And that's why they feel so comfortable in calling us boy and gal or girl. It's very easy. But we need to understand it's not about race, as a lot of people think. It is called hegemony. It is about one group dominating another group. When you look at the silent weapons for quiet wars, it doesn't speak to race at all because it's not about race. They gave us the division of race so that we can war against each other. But I know some beautiful European individuals. I know some beautiful Moors, but I also know some horrible European individuals. And I know some even worse Moors. So everybody that's skin folk are not kinfolk. Everybody that looks like you don't have your best interest at heart. And we see that when we go to the polls and we vote, and they always threaten us with the right to vote and voting. So we go vote, but we vote for people that cannot and will not and refuse to help us. Why is that? Because we don't support them financially. And I'm talking about the politician that's out there, that's your city council person or your state representative or your state senator. Now, remember, when I speak, I don't speak in the context of all of nothing because it's not all. There are some people just like ourselves who really think that they can make a difference and they go and they fight to make a difference until the system of silent weapons for quiet wars shut them down. And then they realize that this is not what they thought. And they have to rethink their position and they have to try to figure out what they can compromise on. And the reason they stay, the people I'm talking about, the real diehard fighters that I know, the reason that they stay is because they want to be the change that they want to see. And they know that if they were not there doing it, then it wouldn't get done at all. So they give what they can and they do what they can. So I'm not ever encouraging anyone not to vote. If voting is your thing, please do, because I'm going to be inviting um, someone to my channel who is running for office, and I'm definitely throwing my vote and my support behind her. Her position is not political in the sense that she has to pick and choose, but she has a position that's so very important and powerful to this city. And I just want the people to meet her and to know her and to see her as I see her. I've known her for a very long time and we're good friends. And I have the utmost respect and honor for her because I know that she gives all that she has and more to serve us, the public. And it means the world to me. So I will be inviting her to my show this week. We're going to do an interview um, this week so that you can get to meet her and at least hear from her what she does and what she plans on doing for the future and what she's done since she walked into the position. We voted her in office once. We need to vote her in office again. And I lead the charge on that. So there are some people that are certainly worth our vote, even though once they get there, there's not much they can do. But you know how you are in your position in life, your job, your school, your children's life. You know how you have to take a stand. And sometimes it seems like the world is against you, but you stand anyway and you do what you need to do. I ask you to do the same as we face some real trying times because times are about to get harder than we've ever known them before. But for our people, times have always been hard. So, it's something just another day in the hood for us, but it's changing. And a lot of us are waking up. So I give you what I have. I know that they are monitoring what we're saying and they don't want us to talk about the effeminizing of the men and emasculating of them as well. They don't want us to talk about how we have allowed this nation to degrade us women into nothing but dick suckers and sluts and whores and getting fucked in the ass type women. We're way more than that. We are the givers of life. Matter of fact, the mothers of all life. And a nation can only rise as high as it views its women. And we need to understand our place and our role. For all of my Bible readers, you need to go and pull out Proverbs 31 and read about the virtuous woman so that you can understand what she does, what she did, and what she's yet doing. That's true to form. Um, a lot of people have a lot of different views on a lot of different things, and so do I. But again, what I say to you, they're certainly my views, my thoughts, my opinions, and I bag them with the facts that I have available to me to bag them up. Back to the inside outside as I get ready to close. I wish that these young ladies would find a different way to get views and to get subscribers. Tearing each other down is certainly not the way. I don't tell anybody how to be in a relationship because happiness comes where you find it. And happiness is for you, the individual, and not for me to say what makes you happy. R. Kelly once said in a song, and I love R. Kelly, by the way, he once said in a song that what we eat don't make them shit, or what they eat don't make us one way or another. I'm always getting some shit mixed up, but it's one way or another. The bottom line is we can't make decisions for other people. We can only make them for ourselves. I would just like to advise the young ladies, if I may, to find another way. It is so much that's happening today to our children. They're coming up missing. It is so much going on. We have heterosexual men wearing, women garb. And I want to speak on that a little bit because there are some heterosexual men that wear what appears to be a dress. It could be considered a dashiki. And so, we always can find one. And that's another thing I hate about people. When you're telling them something in general, they always can find you one. But I do know of this situation because I fell in total love with my first husband, and he had on an African dashiki that was down past his knees, and he didn't have on any pants, and he had on a straw hat. And that guy damn sure looked good that day. And I wanted to get to know him better and to see what was up under that dress. And I did. I got an opportunity to do it all. And he gave me the most beautiful gift in this life, and that is our only child. So I'm grateful for that. But we have got to start looking at all of the cartoons. This stuff didn't just start happening. This shit has been going on at least since 1972, when the plan was in place to start with the Black community to cut down on life. Is what it's about. The hidden agenda is to make sure that we don't reproduce ourselves as a people. You see, the hybrid European is very upset because we have the ability to reproduce ourselves. We have the dominant gene. So when they mix with other people, then they can see themselves as the dominant. They used to teach us when we were younger that the men carry the bloodline. That is not correct. The truth of the matter is your mother carries your bloodline. Your mother, mitochondria DNA is what it's called. And she carries the bloodline. And so once you start learning who you are and what you're about, you will understand more what I'm saying, and it will make more sense to you. But the European cannot reproduce themselves. So therefore, anytime they mix with a Moor, then that child becomes a Moor. And that's by the dominance of the genes. And therein lies the problem. So, we have people that pass for years. They can pass. And then a couple of generations later, the Moor just come on out of them. It just comes on out of them, no matter who they're with. And then the people look at the child and say, I see something different about this one. That's what that is. So we have to understand the attack is against us being family and reproducing. You see, Margaret Sanger is the woman who came up with Planned Parenthood. And so they put all of the Planned Parenthood clinics in our neighborhood and told us it was okay not to have babies. And then they came up with abortions and said it's okay to get rid of the baby. Well, in some instances, it is okay. And I say this to you, so we have no misunderstanding. If you choose to have an abortion, that is you. I have nothing to do with your decision about you. I don't do that. I don't believe in that. And thank goodness I didn't have to do that when I could have children. That was an option for me. Once I had my son, I found out a month later that I had a third-degree heart block that I was born with. Never heard of it until then, but I was told I could die in childbirth. So for me, clip, 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 burn, tie, cut up, cut off, tubes are gone. No more babies for me because I wasn't willing to die in childbirth. So, but if you choose that route, that's on you, baby. Has nothing to do with me. And I would venture to say that they like for us to believe that anything that's going on in this life, we're doing it way more than other people. I mean, that's anything that's wrong. They don't want to tell about, how we become scholars without even getting the proper education, without even knowing the true linguistics and the denotative language, without getting true jurisprudence and getting de jure law as opposed to de facto and the color of law. They don't even tell us about how great we are. But I'm here to tell you that we're great. You are great. You're fantastic. And I don't know how to say it enough. I would love for everybody to just take an interest in yourself and say, do I really know myself? And I would venture to say that answer would be no. And I could be wrong, but I doubt it. It wasn't until I started on the journey to know who were we before we were slaves, before I even understood that the moon governs the womb of motherhood. I didn't know that. I know it now. That the Creator, our mother, gives us all that we need once we enter this world. She gave it to us those 9 months in her womb. So it's so much that we need to know. The 12 body salts, I had no clue of what a body salt was, such as potassium, magnesium, phosphates. I had no clue, but it's there for us to learn. There is so much there for us to learn, unfortunately, because we were not taught different things in the docility training for animals that we were given. I don't know if you looked at my last video, you would recall me speaking about the philosophy page of Frederick T. Gates and J.D. Rockefeller. Um, it is really something to read and to know and to hear. So if you didn't hear it last time, if you this is your first time looking, go and check out that video. I try to give you a message to spark. What we need is there is a higher self and a lower self. As it is above, so it is below. We need to learn the seven Hermetic principles. We need to understand that it's the reason they didn't teach us finance, economics, politics, civics. It's a reason they didn't teach us banking. There's a reason they didn't teach us trust law and estate law, because we are the heirs to the world's largest estate. It's so much. And I don't want to put down anyone who claims to be anything other than a Moor, and even some Moors, because the stuff I hear some of these people saying that call themselves Moors, it's really frightening. It's scary. But to be a Moor, and we all are, only means your bloodline. Please hear me. Does not mean that you're a member of any organization. It does not mean that you are have a different religious belief. None of that has anything to do with being anything other than who we are, and that's our nationality. And they took our nationality from us. So that's what being a Moor means. It's your pedigree, it's your bloodline. It's not a member of an organization. Because of the times and the way things were done, the Honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he did register it as a civic organization. And then they told him he could not have a civic organization. So he then relisted it as uh, the Moorish Science Temple, as a religious organization. It is not, being a Moor is not a religious organization. It is your bloodline. And so I would just ask you to do your own research. I would tell you, though, you would have to look back, far back. You got to get older dictionaries. Because if you look up the word Moor, the dictionary today, it's only going to talk about a boat. It's not going to tell you who we are, but it's in the older dictionaries. American, they tell you that the American is copper colored. That's us. But they call us Indians, which they got that from Hindustan, Hindus. And when you say Hindu, you drop the H sound, and it's Indus. And then they go with the West, and the West, which we are the furthest west. Um, so then they start calling them West Indian, and then they drop the West and just start calling us Indian. We're all the same people. Those are labels to keep us outside of the law. Legally dead. It's called civil litter mortuus. We are legally, lawfully dead. And we may as well be physically dead for the way that they treat us and the way that we allow them to treat us. So I cannot stress upon you enough to tell you that you don't have to take my word for anything that I dare to share with you. I would say research for yourself. You don't even have to take my word for an inside outside relationship. You can speak with other people. I wouldn't dare ask you to get in one just to find out that I'm telling the truth. You can speak with others who've had, you know, a similar experience. I'm sure there are some that would say they didn't have that experience, and I'm happy for that group because I don't believe it's all of nothing. But I would venture to tell you that the majority of the individuals that have been in an inside outside relationship was definitely being used for visits, for letters, for money that you would put on the books. And so that reminds me of views, subscriptions, shares, likes, cash apps, and super chats. It all is the same. YouTube love, penitentiary love. Maybe the woman is faithful, maybe she's not. I don't know. I always told the two men that I had a love affair with in the penitentiary is there is no way that I would commit to them being locked up and fuck around with a nigga out here in the street. Can't do it. Because I'm a person, as a woman, I love to have intimate relationships with my mate. So there is no way in the Sam Houston world that I'm going to be leaving a man in a bed to come drive 3 to 5 hours to see a nigga in a penitentiary. Not gonna happen. So I was never a woman that had outside relationships while the guys that I dated were incarcerated. Couldn't see that happen. And that's why I required no visitations from no friends. I don't give a fuck who she is and how long you've known her. If she wasn't a sister, cousin, auntie, grandmother, or mother, fuck her. She couldn't come visit you. She could write. Now that she could do. But that's the best she could do. And I don't control that. Because if I could control that, she probably wouldn't have been writing your ass either. But I didn't control that. That I didn't require. And I didn't see that as being controlling in that relationship because I saw it as I was giving up, living in the free world, dating. And so you should do the same thing. Not to mention that men have men in the penitentiary. They do that. So you're not really free of him being free of a relationship because he could be in one. But I'm a firm believer, and this is just my thinking. When in Rome, shit, you do like the Romans. So I don't give a damn what you have in the penitentiary. That don't have anything to do with me. I only worry about my relationship. And that's truly the way I am. So I would just tell the ladies to examine yourself to find out why you would be willing to be in a YouTube relationship with a man. It's the same again, like I said, inside outside relationship with a guy in the penitentiary. And you would have to examine why you would want that type of relationship. For me, it was very convenient. I got the intimacy of the words that came with a feeling of love, although I didn't have the intimacy of a physical body. But I had somebody who actually gave me their undivided attention through that letter, okay, and gave me encouragement and compliments, things that you normally, or some of us don't get in an everyday relationship. And a lot of people think, well, shit, look how you look. You're toothless and you're overweight. Well, I like to tell y'all, it's a lot of men love overweight women. You better listen to Heavy D when he called himself the overweight lover. Because most women that are overweight have no problem with getting or keeping a man. And it's not because she's buying him or renting him, it's because of who she is as a woman. Men are attracted to confidence, not looks. Looks, we all are innately attracted to things that we see, but it doesn't keep our attention. It draws us to it. The individual has to keep us with it. And so that comes with knowing how to talk to a person, knowing how to treat a person, because I don't give a damn how beautiful you look. If you're shitty and rude, no man or no woman is going to want you for long. So a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about a man and a woman, and that is because of the way we were taught and the way we were treated. But there is a lot of beauty in the overweight person. A lot of it is hidden because back during the time that I was growing up and the people that grew up and became overweight, such as myself and others, a lot of that came from being molested as a kid and not knowing it, suppressing those feelings and playing it out in other areas of our lives. And so then we came to know as we started working on ourselves. For those of us who started working on ourselves, we learned that that's a part of the issue. Also, weight also has to do with our chemical makeup, and some of us have issues with some of those salts in our bodies that causes us to have these chemical imbalances, and so we end up having problems. There is a multiplicity of things that can cause you to be in the condition of being overweight, but I can tell you that it is very, very hard to lose it, no matter what the problem is that brought you there. Very hard to lose it. And you can lose it and gain it back, lose it and gain it back. And I've been through that, and I had to say, fuck all of it. It is what it is. I am who I am, and I am. And so when you realize that you are the shit, you don't have to worry about what nobody else thinks. You can just go with you. Now, Kevin Samuels would probably look at me and say I'm a goddamn 0 on the scale. But see, I say I'm a motherfucking 10 plus. And you better believe me when I say what I say. Because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so you have to know who's beholding you. And once you understand that, if you're beholding yourself, then you in the right spot. And I can tell you that because I've been in all phases. The thought I loved myself, my didn't love myself, and today where I truly love myself. And it's a beautiful place to be in loving yourself. So I'm going to get ready to close this one out, but I had to share this with you because it's very sad for me to see our sisters on YouTube and all they're doing is tearing each other down, calling each other bitches and hoes, dick suckers, ass fuckers, sluts, and then the men come over and speak the same way to them, and then they speak that way to the men, and it's very disheartening to say the least. And we have so many real issues going on in our community and in this place that we call a country that we need to be educating our people and helping our people. YouTube is already stopping us from having real conversations about real issues. And so, for whatever we can get out of our mouths, we need to be trying to do it. Now, YouTube probably would say, well, no, we're not stopping you. But I did hear or I read, I don't know which one it was, that, and I think I heard this on one of the congressional hearings, saying that the Constitution, which is the law of the land, does not run the rules of YouTube. And I can understand them not running the rules of YouTube as far as their policy goes, but there is no policy that supersedes the law of the land. So I thought that was very strange, but that's what I heard. And so that's why a lot of the things are happening that's happening to different people that are on YouTube. And the same could happen to me. Oh, well, what the hell? But if we would just try to get it out, you cannot unhear what you've heard. You can't. So we must try to get it out. And if they take it down or block it or do whatever they do, that's good, well, and fine. I don't own it. My daddy used to teach us all the time when we were little, when we was talking about getting a job. He used to tell us, don't come home talking about the boss don't like me. Hell, the boss don't know you. And don't come here talking about your disc and yo this and yo that. He said, because you ain't got no damn disc. And if you think I'm lying, get your ass fired and see don't the disc stay there. So you don't own shit at no job. You go there to work. And so that's what you do. And you do what you're hired to do. That's what it's about. So, having said all of that, I want to say, have a grand evening. Thank you for spending time with me. Please join me later this week. I'm going to go live and I'm going to present to you Dallas's own district clerk, Miss Felicia Petrie, and she is a joy and a pleasure. I should say a pleasant person to meet. But it is my pleasure to have her as a friend and to have her to interview with me on my show. So please join me later this week. It should be, for those who are returning, a little bit better getting on, since I know a little bit how to do it now. So we should not take up all your time trying to get logged on. And I look forward to you guys. If you have any questions, anybody in the Dallas area, if you have any questions of the district clerk, please feel free to get them together and ask them in the chat. But we will be live, and you will get to meet her and hear all about her. And I ask you to please like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. I'd also like to say, if you'd like to support this channel, then please feel free to hit my Cash App. I did destroy my computer and I had to buy me a brand new one. And I'm grateful I was able to do that. And I'm trying to get more material together, and just, I really don't have no material to get together. I just speak from my heart and my experiences. And so if I'm touched to speak on a subject, that's what I'll do. But if anybody have questions or anything that they would like for me to speak on, then please feel free to leave a comment, and I'll be more than happy to do that. I want to say again, thank you. And I want to shout out to True Results. I would ask that you guys please go and subscribe to True Results, to John Real, It's Been Real, John Hinge. Uh, please go and subscribe to We Are One TV. These guys are phenomenal, and they are truly some guys that I respect highly, because they gave me an opportunity to shine here on YouTube. Um, it was truly an honor to be asked to be on someone's show, and then to be received by the person and their subscribers. I'm truly grateful, and I want to be found giving them what they became accustomed to when they saw and heard me, and that's giving them me. I do have t-shirts if anybody's interested in any. And as I stated before, if you don't want to see the word fuck on yours, because you don't want to walk around with the cuss word on you, then we do have some without the cuss word. It will still look like this, but the letter will change in the middle so it doesn't say that word. I also have coffee cups. I have journals, and I really suggest that you get a journal, because anytime that you're going to work on yourself, it is very important to write what you're feeling and what you're going through. That's why one of the good things about the inside outside relationship, and that will keep you in it for a long time, and the comments, I would imagine, or the inboxes on YouTube love affairs, is the ability to write, because you tend to be more honest when you write. So I ask that you support me with getting any of my product. I have a mouse pad, and it's just product that I have for Toothless Tiger. And I'm going to say good again, grand evening, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.